Everyone. This is Lady Di of Diana today. And today I want to talk about something that is very close to my heart. It is a topic that I've navigated for many years. I've written about it in my upcoming book. There's a chapter specifically on this topic. And then also the book that was published by Jen Morgan, who I had the privilege of coming alongside her and birthing that project, is also a book that talks about this topic. And the topic that we are going to be discussing today, or that I'm going to briefly talk about today, is the topic of grief. And I find that this is a very important topic. It isn't just a topic that is reserved for certain people. It isn't a topic that's just reserved for when actually you go through it. It is a topic that needs the same attention as our spiritual well-being, our mental well-being, our emotional well-being, and all of these things, because grief is part of life. We're all going to experience it at one point or another in different ways. There's so many levels of grief, so many things that cause grief. And so I want to be able to navigate that topic. And along with that, I'm going to be inviting a few guests. I'm going to be kicking this one off. But I have a few guests that are going to be joining me that have experienced grief in different ways. And for me, I want to focus on the pain that it creates and also how to navigate grief. I know that I went through some really, I don't even want to go that far back, but I experienced grief when I went through a divorce back in 2007. And it was a pain I've never experienced before. It was painful. It was like pangs of pain. That's the best way I can describe it. But fast forward, I would say last month, or as of the month of March of this year, 2022, I experienced loss. And I experienced the loss of 3 very significant people in my life, back to back, days apart. And there weren't just acquaintances. They were people that were very much in my life, people that were very significant and played a big role. And so again, it allowed me to revisit, not only experience the pain, experience the grief, but also experience the topic, to revisit the topic and be able to share some insight, about grief. And one of the things that really kind of, I don't want to say it blew me away, but in a way it does, is how uncomfortable some people are with grief, or how, I would say, emotionally unprepared some people are to handle grief or handle other people's grief. And so I want to be able to share a few things that are going to help not only the person that's going through it, and we're going to be talking about this in detail with other people, not just myself, but with other people. But not only how you handle grief, but how do you handle the grief of others? And that is really important. So let me just start with this. Grief is part of life. Grief is right up there with childbirth. Childbirth is part of life. All of those things, a wedding, all of these things are part of life. And so is death. Death is part of life, death of something or death of someone. But the outcome is the grief and the pain that it causes. And so I attempted to prepare a formal outline, and I'm just going to go down and do a bullet point. But, I don't want to do that. I want to speak from my heart. And not that I wouldn't if I created an outline. I always say I'm going to speak from my heart, but I do it anyway. Everything I share comes from the depth of my heart and with the intent of being able to empower someone else. But grief is part of life. Grief is an emotion. It's something that that you feel when you lose something or you lose someone. You experience grief, and it's identified uh, by the pain that you feel, the emotions that you feel, the desire to cry. And then for some people, it creates depression, it creates anxiety. Some people describe it as pangs of anguish, right? And I could definitely resonate with that. I experienced that when, I went through divorce in 2007, and I would feel like pangs of pain, like inside of my soul. And the only way I can describe it is a sensation of, of something being ripped apart. And so one of the things I want to say to you, if you're listening to me and you have experienced grief, or you have, you may be going through grief right now, is you, is you don't need anyone to validate your pain. You don't need anyone to weigh your pain. If you feel pain and you feel grief, that is your emotion. That belongs to you. You cannot allow anyone to undermine it or not validate it, or say, you know what, just move on. You just need to get over it. That phrase, you just need to move on. It's not so much that they're concerned about your pain. They're just uncomfortable by your pain because they don't know what to do with it. They don't know what to say. And again, you can't blame people for not knowing what to do. You would think they would, but you can't blame people for not knowing what to do. But you can control how you respond to them. So one of the things I want to say I want to say emphatically is grief is not a sign of weakness. Grief is the reaction of losing something you love or someone you love, especially when you lose a loved one. It's part of it's part of the process. It's going to cause grief, especially when you love that person, when you love that friend, or when you love that parent. So grief is not a sign of weakness. It is a reaction. I mean, Jesus grieved when they gave him the news that Lazarus had died. And although he knew he was going to resurrect Lazarus, he still wept. He felt the pain for the others, for their loss, for the loss of his friend, for the loss of one of his. He felt it. And no one can tell me that that's a sign of weakness in Jesus, because that is not so. And so grief needs to be looked at from a different lens. It needs to be looked at from a different perspective. It can't be looked at as a burden or a sign of weakness in your part. And if you are that person that has trouble crying in front of people or sharing your emotions, I understand that. But I'll tell you that when you lose a loved one, and I've lost a few just recently. I try to be strong. I try not to, get very like dramatic in my weeping, but I have experienced pain. And so I want to just say that I honor my daughter. Like, I honor my daughter because when Brennan passed, the way that I received the news was very shocking. When Brennan, my very good friend, Brennan Barrett, when he passed, I received the news first thing in the morning, not sugar-coated, not prepared, not anything. It was just a text message that said, Brennan died on his motorcycle. That was it. I opened my eyes that morning to that news, and I felt like a bulldozer hit my heart. And this was not a romantic relationship. This wasn't anything like that. Brennan was genuinely my warrior buddy. Like, I loved him. We got along great. He was a great friend. He was someone that was constantly speaking into my life. He was constantly empowering me, constantly being that person. And he had a gift. And I, you know, when you find your tribe, you find your tribe. But he had a gift of leaning back and paying attention when I was speaking about something that was important to me. And I acknowledge that gift because it took me a while to learn just to lean back and take in my emotions. You know, it's something that I learned. And when I saw it in him, I thought, man, I met my tribe, you know, one of my tribe. And so, you know, when I got the news, I was just a mess. Like I couldn't speak. I couldn't. It was shocking because it was a very tragic um, way. But my daughter said this to me. She said, Mom, I don't even know what to say to you. I don't know how to comfort you, but I'm here for it all. And she got a box of tissue and sat right next to me and just let me cry. And she let me talk about whatever I wanted. She let me express my emotions. And at that moment, that is exactly what I needed. And when someone is going through grief, a lot of times they don't need to hear, you know, oh, you know, time will heal your heart, or they, you know, that they're in a better place. According to script, you know that they're in a better place. With all due respect to whomever responds to grief that way, a lot of us, we don't need to hear that. A lot of us know that. Like, for instance, in Brenna's case, I have no doubt whatsoever that he served the Lord. He honored the Lord with his life. He was so unique about how he honored God, along with, you know, the other loved ones that have passed. I have no doubt, like, no question. They were kingdom minded friends. I know, but it does not take away that my heart was utterly broken to lose them. And so I want to share a few things about grief. I want to share a few things about the pain. Number one, the Bible says, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are of a crushed, that are crushed, who are crushed in spirit. That scripture has empowered me because anytime someone would speak to me, the only thing I could describe is my heart is crushed. It's a different kind of heartbreak. It's not the kind of heartbreak when someone breaks up with you or you lose a relationship. I mean, that's hard too, you know, and it's heartbreaking, but you know, you're going to be okay with time. But grief, when you lose someone that way, it's just really deep. And so when the Bible says the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit, wow, he just draws near. He just draws near. He sustains you during that pain and during that season. And one of the things that I chose to do, and I actually spoke to someone to kind of walk me through the, you know, through that time, was that I sat with my feelings. I didn't try to ignore them. I didn't try to hide them. I didn't try to avoid them. I didn't try to rush myself into feeling better. I actually blocked a couple of days of that following weekend um, to have self-care, if you want to call it, to just sit on my feelings. If I wanted to cry, I cried, and if I wanted to hear music, I did. One of the things that Brennan did was he would play Tennessee Whiskey all the time. When I would go get my hair done, he would play my favorite playlist, and then for my birthday, he showed up with his guitar and played Tennessee Whiskey. And so you know, I walked and navigated through that and allowed my feelings to go. And so um, one of the things that I learned, the importance of self-care, of be kind to yourself. If you're going through grief, you need to be kind to yourself and just sit on your feelings. Take time aside, make an appointment with yourself to take care of yourself the way you need to. And then, of course, as you do that and you're praying for those moments, God will put really amazing people in your life. And so in Jen Morgan's book, Bring It On, there is a chapter that speaks about ditch divers. And I can't give too much information away in this video about ditch divers, but it really does talk about the people that God uses um, during those moments when we need them the most. And so pray for ditch divers in your life. Pray for people that will come in and not necessarily come in and say the right thing, but come in and show empathy, show that they care, show that you're not alone, and that there's nothing wrong with your emotions, that there's nothing wrong with crying, that there's nothing wrong with repeating, putting things on replay and repeating the same story. There's nothing wrong with it. It's part of grief. And so I want to share a few tips for those of you that, you know, some of you may have this, you know, really pinned down, I guess, but some people are really uncomfortable with grief. They don't know what to say. They don't know what to do. They just don't know how to show up for someone that's going through a difficult time. Number one, give them a call. Give them a call. If they answer the phone, great. If they don't answer the phone, leave a voice message. Don't just say, oh, they know I called. No, leave a detailed phone message and say, I am with you. I am praying for you. I am sorry for your loss. That's it. That's it. Show empathy. Show that you care. You don't have to know what to do. You don't have to know the right answer, because there is no right answer. There is no right answer. And, you know, when I get into there is no right answer, it stirs something up inside of me, and it triggers some, like, it really does stir up a passion inside of me. Because if I were to take the time on this video to share some of the things that people say, I feel like, where have you been in life? You know, where have you been? You know, I saw this a lot, and I am going to take a time to say this. I saw this a lot, experienced it a lot, and saw it a lot during COVID, during 2020, when there were people who lost loved ones. And the comments, I literally had to get off of Facebook because of the comments people made when someone died. They forget that somebody lost their mother or lost their son or lost a spouse. They wanted to make a political issue out of how they died. And my point is, it doesn't matter. At that point, it doesn't matter. This is a time for you to comfort the family if you know them. This is a time to empower people, and just, you don't have anything good to say, show up with a box of tissue. That's it. That's all you have to do. Show the people that are grieving, show them love and empathy. So you can start by making a phone call. You can even send them a thoughtful text. When I say a thoughtful text, I seriously mean a thoughtful text. You don't have to get all the information in one text. How did it happen? How did, you know, were they, you know, I don't want to go down that path, and I'm really working hard at not, you know, because I might throw a few people under the bus, because I received some of those texts and I'm looking and saying, really? So send a thoughtful text. I'm praying for you. I don't even know what to say, but I'm with you. I share in your pain, and I'm so sorry for your loss. That's all. That's all the family needs. That's all a mom needs if they lost their son. There's nothing else. And then, of course, follow up by saying, if there's anything I can do, let me know, and mean it. And really mean it. Because there might be things that you can do to lighten the load. If you're going to communicate through Facebook, make sure that whomever you are going to talk about, they've already posted this information first. With Pastor Wiley, I found out before it was posted publicly, and I did not post anything until the family took it is their place to do that, and I didn't notify anyone or post anything for others to find out until I knew that they had made an official announcement. And so, you know, Facebook is one of our means of communication to our network of people. And so when they made the announcement, then I was free to be able to contact other people or even post or share my condolences. And so if you are going to share your condolences, or if you're going to express how you feel, either do it after they've made it a public statement, or do it privately. Text them, or use the DM, messenger, or find some way to privately communicate. And that makes it a lot more personal as well. And so the next thing I want to say, and this is, I really want to close with this, because we're going to talk about the healing process. We're going to talk about different stages of grief caused by different situations. For instance, the grief caused by divorce, the grief caused by loss of a job, the grief caused by the loss of a child, the loss of a parent. There's so much information. There's so many other people that can relate to your grief. But this segment, I want to end it by saying this. If you're going to visit someone, I highly recommend or highly suggest that you reach out, especially if it's a friend, a dear friend, someone you love, someone you know, whomever. I highly recommend, make the time, make the effort to go out and visit with them if at all possible. But when you do, you don't have to have the answer. Number one, we've already said that. You don't have to have the right thing to say. We've already established that. But I will say, you need to let that person cry. Let them cry. If you are uncomfortable with this person crying in front of you, then maybe you're not the person to make that visit. If this person is grieving, whomever that may be, it may be your friend, it may be a loved one, and if they are talking about it and they start crying, and crying makes you uncomfortable, then maybe you're not the person that should visit. Because grief comes with tears, and trying to hold in the pain is not healthy. It's not grieving in a healthy way. So if someone that you love is grieving and you can just let them cry, that's really the best gift that you can give them. Show up with some tissue, show up with maybe some flowers, show up maybe with some, or make them some hot tea if that's what they like. Show up with a bottle of wine, and then just sit there together. And if this person wants to talk about their loved one, let them talk. Let them talk. Do not tell them, hey, let's change the subject. Let's just change the subject so you can get over it. That's not even polite. That's not even polite. If someone is grieving and they just lost someone, they are not going to change the subject. They're going to want to talk. They're going to want to share. If it's a parent, you want to talk about your parent. If it's a child, you want to talk about your child. You want to talk about the person you love. And so I would suggest, if you visit, let them talk. And then if they want to repeat themselves, let them repeat themselves. How did you meet? What's the best memory that you have? And then smile. And if they start crying, then they start crying. But if you can make them smile and ask them very, I would say, very curious questions. If it's a parent, ask them, well, what was their favorite food? Or what's your favorite memory of your loved one? And let them talk. And if they start choking up, just let them choke up and say, it's okay. I'm here for it. When you tell someone that you care for it, I'm here for it all, that's the best gift that you can give them. That is what my daughter did for me. And that's what I try to do. But that's what my daughter did for me. She said, I don't know what to say, but I'm here for it all. And I'll tell you something, this girl, yeah. Yeah, she sat through it. And so I'm here to share from my heart the wisdom that I feel that God has given me through the years to be able to navigate not only my own grief, but the grief of others, and be able to just share and be just a support, just a support. So if you can do that, that's huge for anyone that is experiencing grief. And so I hope that this is helpful to someone. I didn't want, to make it a real like a Bible study or something really formal. I just wanted to talk to you. But again, it's with the intent that you heal properly, that you go through it, and that you never feel, and this is a great way for me to close this or this segment. You should never feel like you have to forget this person or the person you're grieving over. Or even if it's a divorce or the loss of a job, you never have to forget that experience. That experience should make you better. I never forget in 2017, I was redirected. I had a great job. It was short lived. And some people call it redirected. I call it, I was let go. And I was crushed. I was crushed. And it took me a while to get back on my feet. But I am so thankful for those people that stood with me. And I was able to grieve it. And now I'm in such a better place. There's no answer. You just have to go through it. And so when you hear things like, just get over it, that person's not assigned to you. When you hear things like, they're just in a better place, just rejoice. They're not, they don't know. They don't know how to handle you or your pain. So if you need to stay away from people that don't always have the right thing to say, then do it for a little while until you feel better. This grief is about you. Grief is about you healing. Grief is about you allowing the Lord to heal your heart and grow from it and cherish the memories that you have of your loved ones. And you're never, ever forced to forget them, ever. You're going to remember them forever, which is a great thing because they brought something so amazing into your life. And be that person that leaves those memories in people's lives. And so I'm going to close this segment. We're going to be sharing more topics on grief, how you can be a ditch diver, how you can heal in a healthy way after you've been through a divorce, or when you've lost a job, or you have gone through maybe a really ugly breakup. Whatever the case is, grief is part of life. And so it's important to know that there's healthy ways of navigating through it, and there's ways and there's things that we can do to support others while they're going through their grief. Have an amazing day, everyone. And I hope that you've enjoyed this program. Share it with someone that needs to hear it. And then I will be announcing the next segment really soon. I believe I have Jen Morgan lined up. She'll be talking about ditch divers from her book, Bring It On. And this is again Diana of Diana Today, or Lady Di of Diana Today. And we'll be back with another program really soon. Ciao, everyone.